Appeal meeting for Tuesday, November 12th, 2019 is called to order. Can we get a, meeting is called, I want to get a roll call, Madam Secretary?
Sure. President Brown.
Present.
Commissioner Cook.
Present.
Commissioner Bonds.
Present.
Dr. Jones. Commissioner Dr.
Present.
Jones. So we have 4 members. We have enough for a quorum, sir.
All right, we have a quorum. We'll proceed with our agenda for today. First order of business is approval of our last minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second that we approve the minutes from our last business meeting. Is there any questions? Having none, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Cook.
Yes.
Commissioner Bonds.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
And President Brown.
Yes.
4-0, the motion carries.
All right, minutes from our last meeting has been approved. We're going to the public hearing. BZA 1915, Deborah Cooper is petitioning for a special use permit to establish a daycare at 2134 Ohio Street. Is Ms. Cooper here? All right. We have your petition for the special use permit for the daycare. You appeared before us before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, just open this up to commissioners. If they have any further questions, Ms. Cooper was here before on this matter.
Yeah, I had asked for a better, is this the rendering of the, you don't have any numbers in here in terms of the dimensions, actually. I had expressed an interest about parking. And was that issue ever addressed, Ms. Cooper?
Yes, at the last meeting.
Okay.
It's just a part. Not, I don't have no driveway.
Okay, because that can, I guess, cause an undue, unnecessary hazard for the people who are coming and going. Generally speaking, there's a requirement, I thought, for a parking area.
I picked up and dropped off my children.
Okay. What were your hours of operation again? What will be your hours of operation?
24 hours.
24 hours, okay.
Who owns this property again?
I own sheet property.
You do? Okay, I can see it now, Ms. Cooper. Is this place currently habitated? Is there someone currently living here?
No, no one lives there. I had got the property because the daycare that was closing, they gave me a year for selling their house. So when I bought that house, I would have been zoned, I was zoned at the house I was at, but I didn't go through the zoning process because I had a year to move out that house. So I got my own house to move my daycare, start my own business.
You say that you'll be doing the picking up and dropping off?
Yes, sir.
And how many clients are you going to be serving?
Probably 3 to 4. And they have like different shifts. Some will be my family members that don't have babysitters. Not gonna watch them.
Let me ask you this, is there a special insurance requirement since you'll be porting students or kids?
Like what you mean? Like
I
for the
mean,
house, to my car?
is there a special, I might ask counsel, is there a special insurance requirement in instances like this?
I would think that there would be if there's an additional passengers, that there'd be
She's
some.
talking about picking up and.
So, the decision that we're making here today is whether or not the location is appropriate for a special use for a daycare.
Okay.
So I'll ask you to reference the updated findings of fact that were submitted by the petitioner. Now, certainly concerns about the parking, the hours of operation, ingress and egress are all salient details in the decision-making process because they could potentially impact the safety, morals, welfare of the general community, which is how the board makes the majority of the decisions based on state law. So I would ask that you, when working towards a decision or a recommendation, in this case to the council, that the line of questionings kind of stay along that line. So for example, if she's picking everyone up, does she have access, adequate access for her property, either via the front door or the rear door, whether it be driveway access or parking, secured parking, et cetera, for that instance. Now, the actual, kind of components of that come down to when she's issued a GBL or when the state would come out for inspection of that site. So really what you're trying to get down to, does this property make sense for a daycare?
I got you.
The
And that would be determined by the 6th question.
Correct. And any motion that is made, I would say that you need to make your motion influenced by the findings of fact, because those are part of the record for any recommendation to the council. So if you agree with hers, you can adopt her findings of fact as presented. If you disagree, then the findings of fact are presented as the questions or comments that you have that would make you give a negative recommendation to the council.
Okay.
Any further questions from commissioners? After hearing from our director. If not, I'll open it up to the floor, to the public. Pastor Jones?
I don't have any questions. Familiar with the neighborhood here.
And
Maybe we'll get the
I think
recommendation.
one of the things the board had asked, what is the, how many other daycares are within the radius of this property?
2,
And how close are they?
like 4 or 5 blocks.
And that would be the closest one?
Yeah, 2.
And now, you saying that you mostly pick up the children, how many would you have on the property at one time?
Probably 4.
4?
And some of it's like my sister kids,
Sure, yeah. That part's not really relevant for what I mean by that is, so you're not going to have any additional, cars on the street that will make it difficult for the adjacent residents
Oh,
to
no.
park there. So that, I know that was a question that came up, so
No.
I think that's something that, can be put on record saying that there's not going to be a substantial amount of new traffic or cars parked on the street as part of this enterprise.
Okay, once again, having heard the director, any more questions from commissioners? Well, open it up to the floor. If not, I'll close this portion. Anyone here to speak in favor of BZA 1915? Anyone here to speak in favor of BZA 1915? Same. Anyone here opposed to BZA 1915? Anyone here present opposed to BZA 1915? Seeing none, hearing none, we will hear from staff with their recommendation.
It seems that based on the findings of fact presented and that we have several other instances within the city that we have home daycares, and this is not a, by my estimation, a very intense one, as long as she's in compliance with the state codes, and that's something that is, another step in this process. So this board and the council may approve the general use, however, there are other reviews that she has to go through before she can begin operation. So I'd say, based on the information provided, it's not going to have a negative impact on the adjacent properties. In fact, having this house being used, and this is owned and operated by you. So I'd say with the information provided that we'd give a favorable recommendation to the board.
All right. You've heard the director's recommendation for approval of BZA 1915. Can I get a motion to that effect?
And adopt the findings of fact as presented.
And
Before you do that, let me ask this question. Were any letters sent out to the neighboring?
Right, yeah, as with every other petition, this is a public hearing and the adjacent property owners were notified as such. And let's see, 38 were delivered, 38 were sent. 3 with, in support, 3 without comments, 2 with comments. Anonymous supports daycare as long as neighbor's property is respected. Anonymous supports but have concerns about their children's safety, speeding cars, small and unenclosed front yard. Additionally, some neighbors do not like persons other than themselves parking in front of their homes, thus limited parking. And we've already addressed that concern, and it's a public street, so you
Yeah,
can all
we're
park
okay.
there if you wanted to. And that was the submittals that we received from the adjacent property owners.
so the rest did not respond?
Correct.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to accept recommendation from the director concerning BZA 1915 for approval.
One last question, Mr. President. Can the motion for approval be made subject to a pending or unconditional, some of the things that extra steps, or does it just have to be?
Sure, so the board can introduce any reasonable conditions on the property, and forward that as part of their recommendation to the council. The council could then adopt it as such. So if there's reasonable considerations or conditions that the board would like to see, then yeah, you certainly could include that with your motion.
What you need, Kevin, a motion?
Motion's on the floor is to accept
move
his
to
recommendation with the with the approval and effect finding results. Are there any additional requirements for the motion? If none, we need a approval and a second.
We got a motion.
Move. Second.
We would probably say that we accept approve BZA 1915. Is there any further discussion? If none, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Cook,
I abstain.
Commissioner Bonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
and President Brown.
Yes.
We have 3 approvals, 1 abstention.
Approval on extension, BZA 1915 has been approved for special use permit. She will have to go before the city council. Is that correct? She will have to go before the city council also, right?
Correct, yeah, this recommendation before to the city council for final either approval or denial.
All right.
Follow up with Imran as far as, we send it to the council and we'll let you know when it'll be on the council's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, BZA 1917. Candace Turnage is petitioning for a special use permit to establish a daycare at 4630 West 10th Avenue. Good afternoon, Ms. Turnage.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Give us a overview of your background for this request, special use permit request.
I'm looking to open a child care center at the address stated. I am currently in school for early child care education. I do have a bachelor's in business administration and also a master's in human resource management.
So have you been a worker in daycare before? Is this your first foray?
I've had various jobs in child care centers.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about the property itself, what's adjacent to it, the size of it, the amount of staff and the amount of children and cars, and kind of the general details about the actual physical structure and the program itself.
Okay. Well, as far as the staff go, it is required by the state to have 2 adults present at all times. So there will be at least 2 staff there, as well as the cook.
How many square feet is this total?
It is 6,800
Mhm.
square feet.
And how many children will you have there at a single time?
The consultant came in and did a little walkthrough, and he said I would even have 30 children at a time.
And this is zoned residentially? I mean,
It was a church.
okay.
It It was a church, and they had a child care center inside of there, when the church was in operation. The lady passed, the building has been vacant.
So basically, you're reusing a space that previously was used for this?
Yes.
Okay. That's all the question I had. But continue with your, just about your operations, about the business itself.
Okay. The building adjacent to it, it's on a dead-end street, so there's nothing across the street from the opening, from the entry door of the building, but woods. Coming down the street, there is one house on each corner street. It is fully enclosed with a fence, which divides the neighbors' yards. So-
Sure. And it looks like there's a large enough parking lot for people to, come drop them off and pick up and everything like that, so that shouldn't have any impact on the adjacent properties.
Right, it's enough room to turn around and everything.
Sure. Yeah, being former church,
Yes.
you would hope so.
Yes.
In this one, we had, let's see, what was it, 46 total sent out for adjacent property owners. We received 3 correspondence back, and it's 3 that are not opposed. And none opposed.
Okay.
And you'll see she put out the findings of fact as well in the attachment and went into a good amount of detail. Thank you. Not everybody does. So I thank you for at least putting full sentences and not yes or no answers. It makes it a lot easier for the board when they're making their decision.
Is it Miss Turnage? And you do own the property, Miss Turnage?
No, I'm actually renting it from, the landlord, but he's working on, he's getting something in the works for me to where I can take over.
Is that what that quit claim was about? I saw a quit claim deed, what was that about?
Yes, he did go down and, get that taken care of, because I told him I had to make this meeting. So he went to his lawyer and.
Yep. So what I'm not seeing submitted is the owner of the property. Oh, yeah, here it is. Is that Connie Lipscomb?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, never mind. Yeah, we do have confirmation that she has permission from the property owner to make this application and operate the daycare as presented.
So there's an updated one of these.
It's
And the quick claim deed,
Okay.
you have your hand on it there.
Right here.
No,
This is
your
the
right
letter
hand.
of consent.
Yes,
Yes.
that's what he's referring to now.
Yeah, yeah, so it's after the quit claim deed, sorry. Giving confirmation that that is the person who owns it, and the person who owns it is giving her permission to make this application.
Okay.
While you guys are reviewing, open it up
Did
for
you
public
have it
hearing?
in yours?
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, any further questions from commission before we open up to the public? Okay,
Yes, I do, I'm sorry. Mr.
go ahead.
President. I'm not sure if I heard, did we ask the hours of operation?
The hours would be Monday through Friday from 5:30 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay. And obviously, nobody's living in the property.
No, nobody's.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. So then we'll go over to the public. Anyone here to speak in favor of BZA 1917? Anyone here to speak in favor of BZA 1917? Seeing none, same. Anyone here opposed to BZA 1917? Anyone here opposed to BZA 1917? Seeing none, hearing none, we will go to our director for staff recommendation.
Sure. As you can see from the aerial of this photo, for the site itself, and considering it's a former church, it has more than adequate facilities to accommodate what's being proposed. And we would offer a favorable recommendation because it's a productive use of a property. How long has it been vacant?
It has been vacant for 6 years.
6 years.
Yes.
So I would say this is a good second life for this particular piece of property, and it seems like because it's at the end of a street that it won't have any negative impact on adjacent properties or property values, and it may even help increase them just for having a productive use on this property. So I'd make a favorable recommendation.
All right. You've heard our director's recommendation for approval of BZA 1917. Can I get a motion to that effect?
And adopting the findings.
And adopting the fact finding.
So moved.
Second.
Moving properly second that we approve BZA 1719, including the fact finding sheet. Is there any further discussion? Having none, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Bonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
President Brown.
Yes.
4-0, the motion passed.
4-0. Ms. Tulis, you have been approved to go forward with your special use permit. You'll have to go before the city council for final approval, and you'll get with your staff to see you through that process. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll follow up with you for the next part of this.
Okay.
Next on the agenda, BZA 1920, Tatiana Williams, petitioning for a special use permit to establish daycare at 1944 Matthews Place. Good afternoon, Ms. Williams. We'll give you the same opportunity afforded to tell you about your special use permit request.
Yes, I'm looking to open a home daycare at 1944 Matthews. I actually do have experience with home daycares. I owned one in Hammond for about 3.5 years.
You no longer own the one in Hammond after?
No, I
Okay.
closed it down.
Okay. What would be your hours of operation?
6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay. Any other questions from commissioners?
And do you own the property, or?
No, I don't.
And do we have?
After the floor plan.
Oh, okay, very good. And how many children will be on site?
It depends on what they license me for, but my previous daycare was about the same size, and I was licensed for 12.
Okay. And do you have adequate parking either on site or off site?
Yes, there's a driveway that fits 2 cars, and in front of the home, 2 to 3 cars can fit in front of the home.
Is there any parking off the alley?
No, there is not. There is no alley. It's just backyard.
Is the backyard fence?
Oh,
No, it's not. We have to still get that in, but
No.
that's required to get license for a home daycare.
Thank you for typing out the findings of fact.
I'm sorry, just for the record, you say the 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. What days are those?
Monday through Friday.
This home was vacant, this was a vacant home?
Yes.
Okay.
Is this a 2-story?
No, just, well, it's a, no.
Walkout-
it's-
walkout
it has-
basement?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
a walkout basement, yes.
Concord right behind you. The project right behind you.
Exactly, yep, project right behind. I believe, yeah, I believe so.
Matthew Place.
Yep, mm-hmm.
I think she's referring to what,
Yeah, it was in that project.
I know. It's public housing. Public housing.
But he called the
Oh, I'm
police.
sorry. I apologize to everybody that was offended. I was saying it in
You have
my
JJ
mind,
members.
so
JJ
I'm
is
sorry.
trying to clean up our image, so
Right.
it's not a project.
I apologize. How's it developing?
It's what's called a scattered site
Good.
and affordable housing.
We messing with you, Pat. At least we know who our neighbor might be.
Yeah.
Very good.
Any further questions from commissioners before we open up to the public?
Will you have help?
I'm sorry?
Would you have help or
Yes.
someone to help you
I
with?
will have two employees and possibly a manager.
And have these individuals worked with you before? Have they been trained, I guess should be my question.
Oh, yeah, they will, I require for them to be trained.
Thank you.
So on this one, it went out to 18. What's that? 30? 30 total folks. In support, 1 not opposed. We received 3 in opposition. 1, street needs a lot of weeds and grass cut. Also, street lights need to be installed. Matthews Place is a very dark street without street lights. The second one, too much traffic for the street with longtime neighbors. Houses too close together. Single-family homes should not be used as a daycare. And the final comment we received, owner of an adjacent, near adjacent property on Hovey Place. I resided here since 1996. My grandson and I have been living together in the past 6 years. He recently went to prison but will be released early next year. He is a registered sex offender. If this daycare prevents him from living in my home again, then I am totally opposed to it. I cannot attend the public meeting, say it for him, but please make sure that this approval is presented. Also, I'd appreciate if someone could let me know the final disposition regarding this matter.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So, with the comments about the street lights and the general kind of condition of the street, is it conducive to running a daycare operation based on some of the outside factors?
No,
Out of your
because
control.
that's something that can be fixed, like spotlights and things like that, which I had with my previous daycare because it was dark there.
Mm-hmm.
We put spotlights all around the property.
Sure. And if that's the case, be careful not to shine it in the.
Oh, yeah,
adjacent-
no,
I'm-
just where they pull up to get the kids, nothing to invade the neighbor's privacy or, enjoyment
Sure.
of their own property.
Now, for these daycares, if you have up to 12, is there times where they're outside, or is this anything that, does the state require that there be outdoor activities or anything like that? And how does that impact adjacent properties as far as, I know we allow schools and churches in neighborhoods, but just kind of want to address that as far as that's concerned.
They do require outside time, at least like half hour a day, but like during this time of the year, not so much.
Sure.
You don't necessarily have to take them outside, but in the summertime, yes, but we tend to go off into parks and things like that, and on field trips, so when the weather's permitting, we're really not even on the property.
Sure.
Great question.
Sorry.
That's all I had.
All right, any questions from commissioners?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Okay.
We'd like to get councils, unless I'm out of order. Thought, position, advice regarding the last opposition's statement regard to the sex offender thing.
Initially, well, first of all, it's a unique question. At least I haven't run across any question.
It's the first time I've run across it as well.
And the issue though is who was there first?
Which is what I was thinking.
And if she's approved, I think he said that his son gets out
In a year,
in a year.
or something like that.
She would be there first.
I don't know that we can legitimately prohibit or hinder her application based on somebody that will get out in a year and that might live with his father. So I mean, without research, my gut is that it should not affect what we do. That's my gut.
Sure. I mean, because this is a unique situation, this may be best served to defer a decision on this for us to research this further and kind of gather the facts on that matter.
That was my
Both-
concern.
Both for the, not directly adjacent, but the existing neighbors and for the viability of your daycare. I think we do some research the next month and come back in December meeting for a more robust kind of part of this discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that gonna be staff?
Was that?
Was that gonna be staff's role?
AJ, you have suggested a table in public
Correct.
matter.
I would recommend the board at this time make a motion to defer and keep the public hearing open for the next meeting. And we will work with the applicant and council to have a more complete answer on that matter.
Can you redo the statement regarding the sex offender?
Say that again?
Well, can you say again what that person said about this?
Oh, can I read it again? Sure.
Yes,
Certainly.
please, thank you.
I am the owner of the property on Hovey Place. I have resided here since 1996. My grandson and I have been living here together for the past 6 years. He recently went to prison but will be released early next year. So the person in question has been living there. It doesn't state how long they've been in prison. But he'll be released early next year. He is a registered sex offender. If this daycare prevents him from living in my home again, then I am totally opposed to it. I cannot attend the public meeting scheduled for 3 p.m., but please make sure that this disapproval is presented. Also, I'd appreciate if someone can let me know the final disposition regarding this matter.
Where is Hovey Place? Is that the
That's
block
the
over?
street
Behind
behind
you,
in
yeah.
the scattered
And
site
so he
of the
would,
house.
if he's the
No, it's not in the, it's not in, Hovey would be probably going east.
Okay, one block.
One
before.
block east.
Because
block east.
Concord is
One block
behind,
east.
and that's Hovey is not a part of Concord, which is another thought that I was mentioning to my fellow commissioner, which is probably best for you, Miss Williams, to further research it because who's to say what other children are over there now, particularly in the Concord development.
Yeah. Yeah, he
So
wa-
I agree with, well, it's not time to vote, but I tend to agree with staff's recommendation that we do some further research,
Yeah.
that we make a very informed decision. Not just for you, Ms. Williams, but for the zoning board as well.
Yeah. So,
There's nothing else.
okay.
Move the table.
We move forward. Get a motion to defer BZA 1920 to our next scheduled meeting. If that would be enough time, Director?
Yes, and to keep the public hearing open for the next meeting.
Keep the public hearing open for the next meeting. So the motion on the floor is to defer BZA 1920 to our next scheduled meeting and keep the public meeting open. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Can I get a second? Can I get that motion presented to the
I'll
floor?
make that motion, sir.
Motion been made. Can I get a second? Motion properly second. Is there any further discussion? If none, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
President Brown.
Yes.
4-0 for deferment and to keep the public hearing open.
Thank you. Apologize, Mrs. Williams, but that is a major concern for all of us. Protect you and your investment, let me say. So hopefully we will get a firm answer for you and let you know which way.
You weren't aware of that, were you?
Yeah, were you aware of that?
Mm.
Okay.
I didn't think that it had that much of an effect because there were registered sex offenders on my other daycare. So
Oh, really?
that didn't stop me from getting licensed.
Oh, okay.
That's why. I
It
didn't.
seems difficult to me that a probability that he's gonna get out should not hinder an ongoing improvement to the community, but it's best to investigate.
Investigate,
Yeah.
which I understand.
And know the consequences.
Yeah.
You know, we need to know
Absolutely.
the impact, if any.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I know I use that street all the time, and that street could stand some occupancy at some of those vacant homes that lined up on that street. That's one of the back roads, was 21st and Clark Road that curves.
All right. If there's no other things, Director, any more items that we have to address this meeting, I will call for motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Motion to, meeting has been adjourned. Thank everyone for coming.
May I return your pen?